For the first time in a long time, the Crystal Empire wasn't a frozen cesspool. Considering the track record the kingdom had regarding winter, it was a blessing to see anything other than a blizzard, which is why Twilight was in a better mood than she'd have thought. Please kill it. Twilight's left eye twitched. She stood in the doorway of the castle, across from the obviously disturbed Princess Cadance. "It's nice to see you too, Cadance," she huffed. "Would you mind being a little more specific?" "Not here," Cadance replied in a hushed tone, glancing over Twilight's shoulder before ushering her inside. Cadance then closed the door behind them, an echo ringing aloud as the two trotted along an empty corridor. Twilight's eyes widened as she looked down at the debris that littered the ground, broken vases and torn tapestries alike. Where is everyone? Your guards? Your servants?" "They fled the castle," Cadance said as they rounded a corner. It's an appropriate reaction given that their princess gave birth to an actual eldritch abomination. Twilight snorted. "Look, I know my brother is weird in the bedroom. You don't have to go into detail." Silence. Cadance stared over at her. "Wait, was that not a euphemism? How do you know your brother is..." "Insomnia, thin walls, you squeal a lot." Twilight waved a hoof. "You gave birth to a what?" Cadance frowned. "Walls weren't that thin." Twilight looked away. "I mean, sure, but you're still a squealer." "Yeah, I guess I'll give you that." Good. "What a great bonding moment we just shared." Twilight nodded to herself. "We should do this more often." "Twilight, my vagina has produced a demon." Twilight slumped her shoulders. "So you're not kidding." Cadance stopped in place, unblinking. "Okay," Twilight sighed. "It really is that bad then?" "Look, Twilight, I wouldn't have called you here if it wasn't as bad as I'm describing, but it is that bad. These are the darkest hours the Crystal Empire has ever faced." Twilight raised an eyebrow. "Yes," Cadance continued, "worse than Sombra." Twilight rubbed her face with her hoof. "I'm just failing to understand how one little filly is causing you this much trouble. Not to mention, you supposedly want me to kill her. I mean, she's just a fool for Celestia's sake." "That's what Shining said too." Cadance clicked her tongue. "It'd be better if you just saw her yourself. It'll save me an hour of me having to explain just how screwed up the situation is." Before Twilight could press further, they stopped in front of what Twilight assumed to be the castle nursery. She immediately made a note of her brother's nervous pacing right outside the door. Twilight found it strange that she didn't notice him sooner. Of course, being told to kill a child was pretty distracting. "Shining? What are you doing?" Shining Armor's expression brightened immediately as he walked over and embraced his sister.
"Twilight, it's good to see you."
Twilight gave a nervous chuckle. Likewise, Shiny. What's with the pacing, though?"
No reason. I mean, what panic?"
Cadance shook her head. "Sweetheart, you really are a terrible liar." She turned to face Twilight. "He's just in denial of the fact that Flurry Heart is definitely a product of Cthulhu." "Flurry Heart?" "Yeah, that's what we were going to name her." Cadance blew a stray lock of hair out of her face. "Now I'm starting to think Yabaxagorg would be a more fitting name."
"Can you stop talking about her like that?
Shining hissed.
She's still our daughter, for Celestia's sake.
Private Featherstep will never be able to walk again. The damage to his spine has left him permanently paralyzed from the waist down. He waved a nonchalant hoof.
She just doesn't know her own strength.
You can't act like the tendril that came out of the ground wasn't dark magic. What about the time she scaled up the nursery wall? A smile formed on his face.
My little girl is a fast learner. She already knows how to fly.
She crawled up the wall using only her hoofs while speaking in tongues.
It was just baby babble.
Shining. She was speaking Old Equestrian. Okay. Twilight interjected, wedging herself between the pair. Can I see the baby, please?
Her name is Flurry Heart.
Shining said, gritting his teeth.
And not if you're gonna try to exercise her.
No exorcisms, I promise. Twilight crossed her heart with one hoof. I just want to assess the situation, because honestly, I don't know who to believe. Shining grunted.
Alright, fine. Just be quiet. It's her nap time, and it took forever to get her to fall asleep.
With a small nod from Twilight, he gently pushed the door open. Magic surged through her as she preemptively ignited her horn, ready to attack anything attempting to jump out at her. But there was nothing. Only a baby blue crib at the far end of the room. Twilight breathed a sigh of relief, wiping the non-existent sweat from her brow. Thanks, Celestia. I wouldn't be thanking her just yet, Twilight, Cadance said, trailing behind Twilight and her husband. Flurry Heart is nothing short of godless.
Just keep your voices down,
Shining muttered.
She's still asleep.
Twilight crept along the tile, not making a sound as she neared the edge of the crib. Ahead of her was a cute and perfectly normal foal. Well, mostly normal, if you didn't count defying laws of nature and being born an alicorn. She's adorable! Twilight squealed, hopping in place in a very Pinky-like fashion. I don't see why you were so worried, Cadance. But she was just... Cadance slapped her hoof against her face. I was just in here an hour ago. She was trying to drag me into Tartarus. Shining leaned against the wall, a smug smirk plastered across his face.
I told you, Twilight.
He turned to face her.
Flurry's a little angel. And I think Cadance has just been a little sassy lately.
A little stressed? Are you I completely understand, Shiny, Twilight replied. I've read enough to know how much stress labor can cause, not to mention giving birth to an alicorn. She looked over the foal, giggling in her crib. I still had no idea that alicorn birth was possible in the first place.
Me neither.
Shining said, wrapping his hoof around Cadance's shoulder.
But we'll make it work, won't we, sweetheart?
Cadance didn't respond. Well, I'll leave you to it then. Twilight turned away from them and headed out the door. Have a nice night. I've got some research to do. Twilight hummed to herself, trotting along the empty streets of the Crystal Empire with a newfound sense of inspiration. Though, she stopped dead in her tracks as she asked herself a single question. If there's nothing wrong with Flurry Heart, why did the entire castle evacuate? Twilight anxiously glanced back at the castle one last time before picking up the pace, her eyes trained only on a train station bound for Ponyville. Support me on Patreon and Ko-fi, links in the description. Thanks for listening, and be sure to subscribe. Good night, every pony.